Rigging can be really intimidating when you're new to animation. It's got bones, weights, inverse kinematics and all that stuff. But you don't really need any of that to start animating. So in this video I'm just going to show you how to animate this character with only keyframes and no rigging required. We're just going to make this run cycle, which should be pretty straightforward and beginner friendly. So let's begin. So to start with, I'm just going to create a simple character using the same methods as in my blobby character tutorial. So you should watch that if you want more detail on what I'm doing here. I'm not going to explain exactly what every step is. It just needs to be a character with separate objects for arms, legs, body and head. And the rest is up to you. The design and the proportions are up to you. Okay, now we've modeled the character and I'm happy with the design. First thing we've got to do is apply all the mirror modifiers that we've used. That's because we want the hands and the arms and the legs that we currently have as one single object but mirrored. We want those to be separate objects so we can move them separately. So what I'll do is on the mirror modifier that I've added, I'm going to click apply. I'll do that for the arms and legs and the hands and the feet. I won't do that for anything on the face because they don't need to move separately, or at least in my animation I'm not going to move them. So now we've applied that, this will be one object. But we want them to be separate, so to do that we'll go into edit mode. I want to select all of one side and then separate it. So I'll just hover my cursor over the left side and press L, and L is select linked. So that selected all the vertices that are connected to that hand. And then I'm going to press P, and that will separate what I've selected. So if I go back to object mode, now that these are two different objects. So I'm going to do the same thing for the feet. Just selecting with L and P, and also the legs and the arms. Great, so now these are separate objects. So the next thing is I'm going to parent the object. So this is the way that we're going to do animation without rigging. So when we move the arm, for example, I want the hand to come with it. And when I move the whole body, I want the legs and the arms to come with it. And when I move the leg, I want the feet to come with it, etc. We can do that with parenting. So we'll parent the hand to the arm and the arm to the body. So the way we're going to parent is select the hand and then hold down Shift and select the arm, and then do Control P, set parent to object, keep transform. And now this hand is parented to the arm, and if I move it, they come together. So I'll just do that for the other arm. The feet. I'm going to parent the ears and all the facial objects to the head, and also the hat that I made to the head. And I'm going to parent the top of the hat to the brim, because these are two separate objects. So now everything is moving. I'm going to parent the arms and the head to the body. Now if I move the body, the whole character moves, which is what I want. The next step is setting the origin point for the objects in the right place. This is important because it's also the point of rotation for all the objects. So if I rotate the arm, you can see that it's not rotating at the right place. It's rotating from inside the body instead of at the shoulder joint where you would want it to rotate. So to set the origin point, I'll go into edit mode, and I'm going to select this face. I'll just go into wireframe mode so you can see. I'll select this face, which is the one closest to the body. And then I'm going to press Shift S, cursor to selected. So that's moved the 3D cursor, which is this red and white thing, and it's moved it to that face. Then I'm going to go back to object mode, and then in the top left go to object, set origin to 3D cursor. And now the origin point, and therefore the point of rotation, is moved to here where the shoulder joint is. And if I rotate the arm now, it works. So I'll need to repeat that for both arms and both legs, and also the feet. And I think everything else should be fine. You could also do it for the head, but it doesn't really matter to me. So I'll just do that for this arm. Go into edit mode, select this face, Shift S, cursor to selected, object mode, object, set origin to 3D cursor. Kind of a tedious set of steps to do, but you only have to do it once. And for the feet, I'm just going to select this back face here. Okay. Let me just test things out. Now I'm rotating the leg, rotating the foot. Rotate the arms. Perfect. Okay, now that all the rotation points are in the right place and everything is parented correctly, we can actually start the animation. For this animation, I'm not going to do anything too complex. It's just going to be a simple run cycle. And because we don't have bones and I can't bend the knees, it's going to be kind of a cartoony run cycle, but I think that will still look cool. So we want something for him to run on. So I'm just going to set the cursor to world origin and then add a plane. And then move the character up so he's standing on the plane. Now let's talk a little bit about animation in Blender. At the bottom of the default window here is the timeline, and you can see it has frames numbered here. And by default, it's set to, the animation is set to 1 to 250 frames. So if I press space bar, it plays the animation and it plays through all 250 frames, which is about 10 seconds. And then it loops again. We want this to be a looping animation. I'm going to make it 16 frames long. And I'm also going to start from frame 0 because it makes it easier to count frames. So I'm setting start to 0, end 16. Now if I press play, it just loops through these 16 frames. So this is going to be a 16 frame run cycle. So let's set up the first frame. So I'm going to move the timeline to frame 0. And then this button here is very useful. It's called auto keying. If you turn this on, it means that anything that you do, you change in the object mode will add a keyframe automatically. So for example, I can move 5 frames here and then move the character like this, and if I play the animation, you see that he does this. So I'm going to undo those frames because I don't want that. There is a very important setting which I would recommend you turn on. If I go to Edit, Preferences, and then go to the animation window, make sure Auto is gray here, this button. That'll make it a bit easier with auto keyframing. Okay, the first frame we're going to do on frame 0 is what's called the contact position. And that's the frame where in the middle of running, one of the feet is, I'm going to use the right foot, is just hitting the ground the moment that foot hits the ground. So we've got this foot back, this foot forward, this leg forward, just touching the ground. So I'm making sure there's a keyframe for the body. You can do that by just pressing G and then clicking and not moving. It sets a keyframe. And then rotating the leg here and this leg here. Because this is a 16 frame loop, it means the first frame is going to be the same as the last frame. So I'm just going to duplicate this keyframe in the timeline, Shift D, and drag it over to frame 16. So frame 0 and frame 16 will be the same. I'm going to do the same for this leg and for the body. Now we also want to put a frame at the middle, which is the same as this one but mirrored. So the left foot will be touching the ground and the right foot will be back. So I'll go to frame 8 and I'll move this foot back and move this foot forward so it's touching the ground. And now if I press space, this will be a very, very crappy version of our run cycle, only the legs swinging back and forth. But it is a loop. On frame 8, I'm also going to insert a keyframe for the body, just by pressing G and clicking. Now we want to add some motion for the body, so it's not just staying flat. So it's going to bounce up and down. If I add a keyframe at frame 5, where it's up in the air, and frame 13. Now when I play, he bounces like this. This is still not quite right, but it's getting there. I want the body to still be on the ground when this leg is coming back, so I'll add an in-between frame at frame 3, where I drag it down. This way it will only pop up. Also do it at frame 11. It will only pop up at the end of the run. It's getting better. Because we can't bend the knee when the leg comes forward, instead I'm going to swing it around to the side. So at frame 4, when this leg is coming forward, left leg is coming forward, I'm going to rotate it out like this. And at frame 12, I'll rotate the right leg out like this. And I actually want frame 9 to be even lower. So I'm going to lower the body down on frame 9 and frame 1. There's a bit more of a reaction. When the body's hitting the ground, it's going down a little bit before it bounces back up again. And I actually want him to hold a little bit longer in the air before he comes down. So at frame 7, I'll add new keyframe while he's still a little bit higher in the air. And the same at frame 15. Now it's a little bit of a smoother hop up. think that looks better. Now let's add some animation to the feet so that they're rotating. I'll start with the right foot. On frame 0 this is okay. On frame 1 I'm going to rotate it so it's touching the ground like this. It's sinking in the ground a little bit, so I'll adjust the body in a moment. At frame 3 I want it to be flat. And at frame 7 I want it to be flicked all the way back. I'm going to rotate it a bit like this at frame 11. And I'm going to duplicate the first frame, so it's the same as frame 16. Now it looks a little bit more natural with the feet hitting the ground. I think it's okay actually that it sinks into the ground. It adds a bit of weight. It's not very noticeable. So I'll just do the same for the right foot. Let's start with it flicked back, duplicate that frame to frame 16. Rotate it to the side as it comes forward. Up as it contacts the ground. And then flat as it goes down. Also flat at frame 11. And then flicking back. Now both feet have animation. Let's add some motion to the arms. So I want them to rotate in the opposite direction as the legs. So as the right leg comes forward, the right arm will go back and the left arm will go forward. So we'll just duplicate that frame to frame 16 on both arms. And at frame 8, the right arm will be forward and the left arm will be back. Instead of them just moving side to side, I want them to move up and down a bit. So at frame 4, this arm will be down. Like it's swinging down by the side. And this arm will be up. And at frame 12, this arm will be down, this arm will be up. Now he's doing this windmilling, which is kind of funny. Maybe they shouldn't go up. Let's see how it looks if they're both down. That's a bit more realistic. Maybe not as funny, but we'll stick with that. Okay, now some animation for the head. I just want it to bounce up and down a bit, and maybe squish like this. So I can insert the keyframe here. I'm going to rotate it, duplicate that frame to 16, and then do the opposite on frame 8. And then as the body comes down like this, and just after it, I want it to squish. So on frame 3, it's going to squish it down slightly. And frame 11, squish it down. Now the head kind of bounces a little bit and squishes. I want to add some animation to the hat so it bounces up and down on his head. So add a keyframe at frame 0, frame 16, and frame 8. And I want it so that when he bounces up, the hat keeps moving and kind of flies up just for a moment. So I'll add a keyframe at frame 7 that comes up, and at frame 15. And I'll just duplicate the rest position 2 frames before that. So the hat kind of bounces. If we want to exaggerate this even more, we could, for example, make the bounce higher. So if I raise the height of the keyframes on 5 and 7, and 13 and 15, it's bouncing up even higher, which I think is cute, and that works. This cartoony animation, having some extra exaggeration serves it well. And we could also even squish everything down when it hits the ground. So on frame 2, if I scale just everything down like this, and also on frame 10, scale everything down. Now the whole body kind of squishes like jelly when it hits the ground, in sort of a rubber hose animation type of way. Now there's lots of other things you could do, like adding rotation to the head. Okay, I'm happy with the run cycle now. And I want to render it, so I'm just going to set up some materials, lighting, and the camera. I'll do that very quickly. One thing you want to be aware of is turning off auto keying once you start doing things that are not animation anymore, because you don't want the lights to be moving around and camera to be moving around that when you don't intend them to be. So make sure that's off. I'm just going to put the camera as an orthographic camera and have it at a 3/4 perspective like this, just to show the animation in the best angle, I think. Okay, now I've set up a scene with an orthographic camera at 3/4 view, some lights, some colors, rendering, etc. You can look at my other video on how I usually set up the lighting and colors if you want more detail on that. But I think it looks pretty nice now. Now at the moment this animation is only 16 frames long. And if I extend the timeline to make it longer, if I wanted to render it longer, you see it just stops. And the way we can use the animation that we've already done and have it loop is using a F-curve extrapolation called make cyclic. I won't go into that too much, but The way we do that is press A to select all objects. Now we can see that all the keyframes for all the objects we've just selected are added. And I'll select them all, box select them all, and then do Shift E, make cyclic. Now if I play the animation, it should automatically loop everything that we've made. And because we made sure to add a frame at 0 and 16, each loop is exactly the same length, and it will loop correctly. So we can actually make this very, very long animation. I wouldn't necessarily recommend, if you want the animation to be a 10-second loop, I wouldn't necessarily recommend just rendering 10 seconds. You could render 16 frames and then bring those frames back into the video editor in Blender and just copy and paste them a few times to make the loop longer, but this is an option. And what having a longer frame like this allows is some other things happening. For example, if I add a cube here and keyframe it so it moves past, it looks like he's running past stuff instead of just running on the spot. So you can model some little bushes. If I add a subdivision surface to this, looks like a little bush. Make it green. To make it move linearly, I selected the keyframes, did Shift E, and did linear extrapolation. That means that it won't try and smooth move in and out, and it will actually keep moving forever, even after the keyframes end. So for moving scenery like this is what you want. So I can go into edit mode and maybe add a few more of these scattered about. Rotate them so they look like they're different. That's a bit like a cactus. Now when I play, he's got some stuff to run past. I'll add a bit more. You can make it look a lot better than this, I'm sure. Now let's look at rendering the animation. If I come to the render settings, I'm using cycles with GPU compute to be as fast as possible. I'm going to render on 10 samples with denoising on, because I like the look of the blurry denoising, and it will be very fast. For the output settings, you can choose where it's going to save. By default, it just saves to your C drive in a temp folder, but I'd recommend making a new folder for renders and project files and things like that, and putting it there. You can render as a PNG sequence, which is good if you want to do any editing afterwards or you want to preserve the quality. It also means that if it crashes halfway through the render, you don't lose the progress. It keeps each frame that it's rendered. So for a longer animation, I would recommend using that. But for now, I'm going to render just to an MP4 because it won't take that long, and that's what I want the final product to be anyway. So I'll select file format FMPEG video, and then under encoding, I want it to be MPEG-4. So that will give me an MP4 video file. So once that's set up, I'll click render animation. And this has popped open a window which is going to go through every single frame and render it. And if you've ever rendered an animation before, you know it might take a while. So be patient. Go and make a cup of tea. and I'll see you when it's done. Well, there you go. There's the finished animation. And I think it looks pretty good. So I hope you also enjoyed following along. And if you made something, please share it with me on Instagram. And I hope you learned something about how to animate without rigging and just about animation in Blender in general. I hope this video inspired you to make some more animation, animate some more characters, and just have fun playing around with the tools. Because it's really possible to make a lot of stuff in Blender without having to bother with too much technical faffing around. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.